Life is more than the calendar. We live in a world obsessed with dates, deadlines, and schedules. We circle birthdays, we highlight meetings, we count down to vacations, and we plan for retirement decades ahead. But no matter how organized your planner looks, it cannot predict your final breath. The problem isn't in planning ahead. The problem is in forgetting that time itself has an expiration date. Too often, we wake up thinking that tomorrow is guaranteed because the sun rose today. But eternity is not measured by the pages of your planner. You can plan your whole year and never see the next sunrise. That's why it's dangerous to let the calendar become your master. You were created for something far greater than appointments and deadlines. The clock on your wall can only tell you the hour, but it cannot tell you what your soul is worth. The question we must ask ourselves is this: am I just preparing for the next meeting? Or am I preparing for my maker? When you live with eternity in mind, your priorities shift. You don't just plan to survive another day. You live to make every day count forever. You are not just a body moving through the motions of life. You are an eternal soul wrapped in temporary flesh. Everything you see around you, no matter how solid or permanent it looks, is fading. Houses crumble, cars rust, bank accounts shrink, and even the strongest bodies grow weak. Yet deep within you is a soul that will outlast every earthly possession, every achievement, every season of life. This world is more like a waiting room than a final destination. Imagine checking into a hotel for a few nights. You don't bring in a moving truck and redecorate the whole room because you know you're not staying forever. But so many of us decorate our hotel room on earth as if it's where we'll spend eternity. We pour all our energy into comfort here while neglecting the reality of what comes next. Your soul will step out of time and into eternity, either in the presence of God or apart from Him. That's why we cannot live as if this world is all there is. The wise person plans not just for the years ahead, but for forever. Don't trade the permanent for the passing. Live like eternity is your true home. When you begin to see life through the lens of eternity, everything about your priorities starts to shift. Suddenly, the things that used to feel urgent don't carry the same weight. The arguments that kept you up at night seem smaller. The pursuit of money, status, and applause loses its grip because you realize these things won't follow you beyond the grave. Instead, you start asking a bigger question: does this decision count for eternity? When heaven becomes your focus, your time, talents, and treasures find a new direction. You don't just spend your energy chasing what's temporary. You invest it in what will last. The way you handle relationships changes because you understand that people, not possessions, matter most to God. The way you face trials shifts because you trust that God is weaving even your pain into His eternal purpose. Living with a heavenly perspective doesn't mean you ignore your earthly responsibilities. It means you align them with God's eternal plan. You stop measuring success by what you can accumulate and start measuring it by what you can give that impacts lives for eternity. That shift transforms not just your plans, but your whole purpose for living. Every choice you make today leaves an imprint that stretches far beyond the moment. We often treat decisions as if they are small, isolated events, but each one plants a seed, good or bad, that will grow into a harvest we will one day face. Words spoken in anger can linger for decades. Acts of kindness can ripple through generations. The choices you make in secret are seen in eternity, and their impact will echo long after your name is forgotten on earth. Think of a stone dropped into a pond. The ripples don't stop at the point of impact. They spread outward, touching places you didn't expect. In the same way, Your attitudes, actions, and priorities create ripples that reach into eternity's waters. You can't separate the temporary from the eternal because today's habits shape tomorrow's destiny. Every time you choose forgiveness over bitterness, generosity over selfishness, obedience over compromise, you're storing treasures in heaven that cannot be taken away. Every time you ignore God's ways for the sake of convenience, you plant seeds of regret. Remember, the grave doesn't erase your choices. It reveals their true weight. Live so your decisions become eternal investments, not eternal losses. Putting God's kingdom first means letting his agenda set the direction for your life, rather than letting your own ambitions take the lead. Too often, we chase after comfort, success, and security as if those things can hold our lives together. But Jesus reminds us that when we seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, everything else we truly need will follow. This isn't about ignoring your dreams or responsibilities. It's about prioritizing God's purpose over everything else so that your plans align with his. When God's kingdom becomes the centerpiece of your plans, your decisions gain clarity. You stop asking, what do I want most? And start asking, what does God want most through me? That shift changes how you approach your work, your finances, your relationships, even your setbacks. You no longer measure success by what you collect, but by how faithfully you serve his mission. When you put his agenda first, you can trust him to handle the rest, your needs, your future, your tomorrow. Seeking his kingdom first doesn't shrink your life. It expands it. You're no longer chasing temporary gains, but living for eternal significance that outlasts every season. Life has a way of reminding us how fragile tomorrow really is. A sudden phone call, an unexpected diagnosis, a change in the economy. And in a moment, the plans we thought were secure can come crashing down. That's why we need hope that isn't tied to circumstances. When you fix your eyes on eternity, you anchor yourself to something that cannot be shaken. God's promises don't rise and fall with the stock market. His faithfulness isn't threatened by bad news. The hope he offers reaches beyond the uncertainty of tomorrow and assures us that even when life is unpredictable, his word and his presence remain constant. That kind of hope frees you from living in fear of what might happen next. When you plan with eternity in mind, setbacks don't destroy you. They remind you that this world is not your final home. Pain becomes temporary, losses become lighter, and even death loses its sting. You can walk through today's storms knowing that there is a greater tomorrow, an eternal one, where God will wipe every tear and fulfill every promise. That hope gives strength to endure today and courage to face whatever comes next.